Welcome to Lesson 7, String Manipulation in Python. Now, so far, we've worked with strings in their simplest form, just text inside quotes. So we've printed them, we've stored them in variables, but we haven't really explored what we can do with them. So imagine you're working with names in a program, and maybe you just want to grab the first letter, or you want to check how many letters are actually in that word. What if someone also just accidentally types their name with a lot of extra spaces in the beginning and a lot of extra spaces at the end of it? So how do we clean that up? In this lesson, we're going to learn how to break apart, modify, and format text using Python. So by the end of this lesson, you're going to be able to find out how many characters in a string, grab individual letters or sections of text, change text to uppercase or lowercase, and even remove extra spaces or replace words. Think of this as learning how to edit and reshape text using code. So Python gives us a lot of built-in tools to do all of this quickly and easily. And once you learn them, you'll just start seeing how powerful. So let's take a look at how Python stores strings and how we can interact with them. A string is a sequence of characters, and that just means each letter, number, or symbol inside a string has a specific position. We can use these positions, which are called indexes, to pick out individual characters or sections of a string. But here's something important to remember. Python starts counting from 0, not 1. So this is different from how we usually count in everyday life, but in Python, the first character of a string is at position 0. And so let's break it down with this example. If we have the word Python, each letter has a position. The index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first letter P is at index 0. The second letter Y is at index 1. And so on, so on. So if we want to grab a specific letter, we can use square brackets with its index number. So let me explain this to you. Let me get this out of the way. So let's say we want the first letter of Python. All right, so since Python starts at index 0, all I need to do is grab the variable that the string is assigned to, or the actual string, hit word at position 0. Let me go ahead and print this so we can see this. And you can see it grabbed letter P for us. Try it again. Let's say I want to grab the H. So let me see. 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is at index 3. So I'm going to go ahead and just update this 0 and print this out. And we can see it's printed P and H. So Python also allows us to count from the end of the string using negative indexing. And so instead of starting at 0 from the left, as we do here, we start from -1 from the right. I'm going to show you an example of what I mean. Hopefully you can see this. So it starts from -1 from the right, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. And so if we want the last letter of Python, we could just do print square brackets -1, and this should print N. And we see that it prints the N in the terminal. And if we wanted the second to last letter, just go ahead and give one more example, which is 0 or O, and we can see that again. So why even do negative indexing? Well, here's an example. If you don't know the length of the string and you want to grab the last character, you could just use negative indexing. That would work there. Perfect use case. Okay, so now that we know how to access individual letters, let's figure out how many characters are in a string. So Python gives us a built-in function called length, just like this. Okay, and this stands for length. This function counts the total number of characters in a string, including any spaces or punctuation. Essentially, whatever is in that string, it will count the total number of characters in there. So, for example, if we want to find out how long the word Python is, so let me just go ahead and add Python again. And then if I just go print length word, it's going to print 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, what's interesting is when we were talking about the indexes or indices, you always start from 0, right? And so if you started from 0, then this would actually be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when we use the length, we start counting from 1. It's the actual length. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me show you using length in a longer phrase. So, and then we go ahead and print length phrase, and we see 13. I'm going to believe that. Now, why do indexing and length matter? So understanding indexing and string length is important because it helps us break apart and work with text in a precise way. So if you need the first index, you use index 0. If you need the last letter, you use index -1. And if you need to check the total number of characters, you use the length functions. So now that we know how to find the position of letters and measure the length of a string, we can start exploring how to extract different sections of text. So let's move on to this term called slicing. All right. So what do we do when we want to grab a section of a string instead of just one letter? Dun, da, 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 slicing. Kind of makes sense, right? Slicing. Well, slicing allows us to extract a portion of a string by specifying where to start and where to stop. And so what do I mean by that? I'm just going to write a comment, but essentially it's string start end. So in Python, we use square brackets along with colons to slice a string. And so the general format looks like this. I'm just putting this in a comment, but string, whatever the string is, the start index, colon to the last index. So the start index tells Python where to begin slicing, and the end index tells Python where to stop. But the end index, it does not include that position in the result. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Also just slicing. Okay, so if I print word starting at 0, ending at 4, let's see what this is actually going to print using this Python. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is only going to print P to H because, as I said, the end is not included in the result. So let me go ahead and print this for us. Command R, and you can see that it says PYTH. So there's some other things that we can also do for slicing. Let's say that we just got rid of this 0. We left out the start index. So Python assumes that we mean start from the beginning up until this point. So this too shall print exactly what we just printed before, which is PYTH. And the inverse is true as well. If we leave out the ending index, but we only have the start, so start then colon, this should start printing from the start index to the end. So this should print the whole word. Python, it did. Now let me just show you another quick example. So far I've just been starting from 0, but start doesn't mean actually the start index. It can mean anywhere. So I can go start from 2. And so if I start from 2 using this word Python, 0, 1, 2, it should print out thon. So let's try this. And you see it thon. Okay, cool. So just as we did negative indexing for grabbing a specific character, we can also do that with slicing. So let me go ahead and give you an example. Chat GPT. Ooh, okay, cool. So if I do print word, I'm going to skip the start index, but I'm going to add the ending index. What do you think this is going to do? Dun, 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 dun. Now remember, the ending index, this -1 will grab the last character. So in this instance, it's going to start from the beginning all the way up to the last index, but it won't include that last index. So it should say chat GP. There it is, ChatGPT. Let's do another example. I'm going to have it start at index 3, 0, 1, actually index 4, and it's going to end at -1. So if we're typing out that word ChatGPT, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we should really just get GP in this instance. So we can go ahead and print it. Boom, boom, GP. All right. Here's another concept. Slicing using step values. Slicing with step values. All right, so let me show you what the format is for step values. Essentially the string, and then you have your start index with a colon, then your end index with another column, and now you have this step. So the step tells Python how many characters to skip at each time. Default step is 1, which means Python moves 1 character at a time. However, if we set the step to 2, Python skips every second letter. I'm going to just say Python again. And what this is saying is going, you start at 0, the end index is 6. However, skip every second letter. So let's print this out. And we have PTO. We start at index 0, which is P. Go until index 6, which is not included, of course, but move every 2 characters instead of 1. So the result is PTO. P, skip, include, T, skip, include, O, skip the last character. All right, so we just dug into slicing a bit. Now the question is, well, why use slicing? Well, slicing is super useful. We can use slicing when we need to grab parts of a string without changing the original. And so let me give you some quick examples. If I say full name equals Beyonce Knowles, did I spell it right? Knowles. And then I say first name equals full name, and I am going to slice from the start into, let me see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to include that space because I want the whole full name. And so since the end does not include that character in the result, let's go ahead and print this. Print first name. We see that we have Beyonce. Let me go just comment this out. So let's say I want to get the last 4 digits of a phone number. So let me go ahead and put phone equals 555 1 2 3 4. All right. So then last 4 equals phone at, it's going to start at -4. Put that colon there. Let me go ahead and print phone. Go ahead and run the program. Oh, print last 4. There we go. Print last 4. We get 1 2 3 4. All right, so now that we know how to extract different sections of strings, let's move on to combining strings. Go ahead and comment this out. So let's talk about how we can combine strings or repeat strings. Now in Python, we can put strings together using concatenation, and we can make them repeat using multiplication. So concatenation is about joining strings together, and it is a fancy word for combining strings. So in Python, we use the plus operator to do this for strings. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I can do first name equals Whitney. Oh, and last name equals Houston. If I create a variable full name and go first name plus, I'm going to add an empty space right here, plus Houston, plus last name, and print this, this is what will happen. we get Whitney Houston now is the full name. We have two separate strings, first name and last name, Whitney and Houston. And we use this operator to combine them. And since we wanted a space in between Whitney Houston, we added an empty space between the names. So this works with any strings, not just names. So we can combine different words to create sentences. For example, greeting. Now, if we think about this, we have hello, plus we have a comma, plus world. Not only do we have a comma, we also have a space plus world. So what should end up happening is hello, comma, space, world. All right, so now I'm going to try to concatenate a string with a number, and watch what happens. Age equals, at one point in my life, I was this age. Message equals, I am not plus age years old. Oh, okay. I'm like, why is this yelling at me? All right, so this is me trying to combine a number with a string, and let's see what happens. Gonna go ahead and print message. All right, type error. Type error can only concatenate string, not int to string. So I think you're starting to get an idea what this type error means. It's like when it is the wrong data type, essentially. You're trying to perform some type of action on the wrong data type. And so in this instance, we're trying to do this concatenation. We're trying to combine this string and this int, and we're not allowed to do that. Okay? So the only way we would be able to concatenate this whole string together is we'd have to turn this number, this int, into a string. And the way we do that is actually pretty easy. So all we need to do is just call this string function. And let's see what happens here. I am not 25 years old. All right, so we fixed it. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out. Let's talk about quickly how to repeat a string multiple times. Now, we covered this quickly during the profit calculator, but I didn't really explain it. If we want to repeat a string multiple times, instead of like typing the word over and over, let's say we can do laugh equals ha times 3. And if I print that out, laugh, ha 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 ha. There we go. So Python allows us to multiply strings using this multiplication operator. All right, so now that we know how to concatenate, so combine and repeat strings, let's talk about how to modify them. So sometimes we need to clean up user input, fix the formatting of text, or replace certain words. So Python provides these built-in tools to make these changes easily. So let's get into this. All right. Let's start with changing the letter case. So in Python, we can convert text to uppercase, lowercase, or title case using super simple commands. So let's talk about making text uppercase. Let's say I want to convert all the letters in a string to uppercase. And all we need to do is name equals star. All I would need to do is say print name dot upper. And you can see that printed star. So this upper function, it takes every letter and capitalizes it. So just as we easily capitalize that, we can also change everything to lowercase. And guess what that function is? So I'm going to say print name dot lower with the parens. And so now we see star and star. Let's say that we have a sentence and we want to start each word with a capital letter. Phrase equals. All right, and so to be able to do that is just as simple as upper and lower. So let's just print this out, and we're going to use the title function. And we can see, will TikTok get banned? So this is useful when formatting names, book titles, or proper nouns. Okay, let's keep on moving. All right. So next, let's talk about the ability to be able to remove extra spaces. Text can have unwanted spaces in the beginning or the end, especially when people are using the input method. Let's say they accidentally put a space in there, or they're filling out some type of forms, there's accidentally an extra space. So there's a handy little way to remove them in Python. So you can see it. And then let's print it with the strip method. Dot strip. There we are. So we can see too much space and then too much space. And let me just show you a couple of more quick ones. Let's say that we print user input dot L strip. Guess what that means? Left stripped. So this should remove only the spaces on the left. So let me go ahead and print this. All right, so you couldn't really tell the difference, but that's okay. Let's see if we do print. Here's another one. And this one's called right strip. Okay, so this is useful because it removed all the spaces from the right. Now you can't really see it right now, but this really becomes apparent when you're doing like data analysis or you're storing stuff in the database, or just kind of like a front end, some type of user interface where you see text all aligned and such. We started with the strip method, which just removes all spaces from both sides. The left strip removes the spaces from the left. The right strip removes strips from the right. Okay, so let's talk about replacing words in a string. All right, so what if we do if we want to swap one word for another? We can use the replace method. All right, so let's say we have a sentence and we want to change a word. So lyrics equal, let's replace dogs with you. So create a new variable and assign it to lyrics dot and use this replace method because we want to replace the word. We want to replace dogs, all right, with you. And so you can actually see these little messages. This is from PyCharm, giving you like a little bit of help. So when you use this built-in tool, it's like, oh, okay, you replace the old with the new. And so I'm going to go ahead and print this so we can see new lyrics. I will always love you. Just like that. And so why use this? Why replace things? Well, this is useful for correcting typos, censoring words, or formatting text dynamically. All right, so what do you think would happen if we had two occurrences of the word dogs? Let's just try that out real quick. Gonna go ahead and add more dogs to this one. And I'll just keep the replace method that we had. I will always love you, more you. So it is replacing every occurrence of the old word with a new. All right, so let's combine some of these modifications. Let's say that we get a super messy input from a user and we need to clean it up. All right, so how are we going to clean this text up? Let's say we want to get rid of all the spaces on both sides. We want to strip the spaces on both sides. Then we want to capitalize the first letter for each word. And then we also want to replace world with. So here's a really cool way to combine these text modifications. So I'm just going to put cleaned text. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that user text. And I said, I want to get rid of the spaces. All right, strip. Now, this is going to output a string. So we can actually just pipe that into another modification. So here we go. Then I wanted to have each letter, the first letter of each word, be capitalized. So I'm using that title method. And the output of that, I'm just going to pipe that into the replace and replace the word world with Python. I'm going to say Python. And so let's go ahead and print clean text. Oh, I messed up. I forgot an additional argument in the replace. Uh, and you see type error, replace expected at least two arguments. I know we haven't really talked about functions, methods, etc., but if you kind of look at this, it's like, this replace wanted two arguments, so it wanted two things in there basically. But I will explain it more when we get further down. So let me go ahead and update. Yeah, so the replace method, we need to have two arguments in there. So the first one should be, I'm going to replace world with Python. There we go. Hello, world. So you see how this was all cleaned up. We stripped the spaces, we capitalized the first letter of both words, and then we replaced world with Python. So now that we've learned how to extract, combine, repeat, and modify strings, you might be wondering, so what else can we do with strings in Python? Actually, we could do a lot. And the best way to discover them is by using the Python documentation. There are so many different things that you can do, some built-in tools that you can do with strings. So like return a copy of the string with its first character capitalized and the rest lowercase. So this string capitalized is actually super similar to string title that we used earlier. But I think what is different about this one is that the first case is capitalized for the whole sentence, not each individual word. So we can actually test that out. So if we were to do, let's see, we use title here, right? So we use titled on the clean text. And what that did was it capitalized both words. But let's see what happens if we used capitalize instead. Exactly. So it only capitalized the first letter in the string. All right, so anyways, this is a very long lesson at this point. There is a project assignment, so make sure to check that out. Have some fun, explore, play with these methods. Remember, you don't have to remember everything, but you want to know that things exist, and have a good time.